There are players you notice right away. The ones who explode onto the scene, hit logo threes, and flood your feed with highlight reels by the end of their rookie debut. Amen Thompson? He's not one of those players. No flashy headlines, no drama, no self-promotion. Just a 6'7" guard with a wingspan that could block out the sun, quietly dismantling matchups, making all the right reads, locking down your favorite scorer, and walking away like it was just another Tuesday. And yet, even with no spotlight, he made Steph Curry, the greatest shooter of all time, stop, shake his head, and say just 7 words. He's a dog. He's going to be a problem. Steph Curry doesn't hand out compliments. He gives respect to killers, to the guys who push him to his limit. So why does Amen Thompson, a guy averaging just 14 points a game and barely hitting 27% from 3, get that kind of praise? Because the box score never tells the full story. And Amen's story? It's just getting started. What if I told you that right now, while most of the league is sleeping on him, Amen is quietly following the same path, all 3 paths that turned Giannis Antetokounmpo, Steve Nash, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander into MVPs? What if I told you that Amen Thompson might be the most misunderstood superstar in the making in the entire NBA? Let's break it all down. Let's start with the most obvious comparison. Amen Thompson and Giannis share more than just freakish athleticism, they share the same misunderstood origin story. When Giannis came into the league, he was raw. Like, really raw. Skinny, wild, and not even guaranteed to stick in the NBA. Bleacher Report literally said on record that he would never play an NBA game. That aged well. Fast forward a few years, and Giannis didn't just prove people wrong, he became the most unstoppable force in basketball. But the journey wasn't pretty. It took years of discipline, focus, and learning how to control the storm inside him. And Amen, he's already walking that same path. When he was drafted, people saw the tools: elite length, crazy bounce, 40-inch vertical, elite anticipation on defense. But they also saw a guy who couldn't shoot, who played a little too fast, and who didn't yet understand how to slow down in the half court. Sound familiar? The truth is, Amen is like early career Giannis, a nuclear athlete trying to figure out how to be more than just a highlight reel. Giannis had to bulk up, change positions, and build his game from the inside out. And now, we're seeing Amen start to do the same. He's already a menace in transition. He's already elite on defense. According to Crafted NBA, he ranks in the 97th percentile in defensive plus-minus as a second-year guard. That's not normal. But here's the scary part. Giannis didn't hit his MVP stride until year 6. Amen? He's in year 2, and he's already way ahead of where Giannis was at the same point. The only thing missing? Offensive polish. And that brings us to blueprint number 2. Now let's pivot, because where Giannis was a ball of raw power, Steve Nash was the opposite. He was overlooked, underestimated, and buried on the depth chart. In his first few years, he averaged barely 3 points per game. He didn't get real minutes until year 5. And it wasn't until age 27 that he made an all-star team. But what made Nash special wasn't flashy stats or athleticism, it was control, vision, timing, IQ. And when the Suns finally gave him the keys, he orchestrated one of the most dangerous offenses the league has ever seen. Sound familiar again? Amen Thompson may not have Nash's jumper, but he does have that natural feel for the game, the ability to manipulate pace, to anticipate where the ball should go before the defense even knows what's happening. And just like Nash, Amen hasn't had the cleanest runway. He's been stuck behind veterans like Fred VanVleet. He's had to share the backcourt with Jalen Green, a volume scorer who needs the ball to be effective. But when Amen finally did get extended minutes post-All-Star break, something clicked. His assists went up, his turnovers dropped, his efficiency improved across the board. He averaged over 5 assists per game, not from dominating the ball, but from picking his spots and elevating everyone around him. That's pure point guard DNA. That's Steve Nash energy. Now imagine if Amen actually gets the keys to the offense next year. Imagine if he's allowed to play 35 minutes with the ball in his hands, with the offense built around him. We're not just talking improvement, we're talking leap. But we're not done yet, because there's one more MVP model Amen is quietly replicating. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander didn't come into the league as a pure point guard either. He wasn't even given the full-time PG role until year 4, but once he got it, everything changed. What made Shai special and what makes Amen potentially even more dangerous is versatility. Shai isn't a traditional floor general. He scores, he draws fouls, he lives in that deadly mid-range area and controls defenders like a puppeteer. But here's what people miss. Shai wasn't always this polished. He had to build that jumper from the ground up. In year 3, Shai shot just 38% from the 10-point 16-foot range. Not terrible, but not elite. In his MVP caliber season, he jumped to 53%. That's how you go from solid to unguardable. Now look at Amen. As a rookie, he shot 29.2% from that same mid-range zone. This year, 48.8%. A 20-point jump. That's not improvement, that's a signal. And it doesn't stop there. Amen is finishing 76.4% of his shots at the rim, better than Jokic, a literal MVP center known for soft touch and elite finishing. Let that marinate. A 6'7" guard is finishing at a higher rate than the best big man in basketball. Why? Because Amen doesn't force bad shots. He uses angles. He changes speed. He attacks with intention, and that's where the Shai comparison becomes really scary. Shai doesn't average 10 assists. He doesn't need to, because he controls the game with his presence. He bends defenses, and that's exactly what Amen is learning to do right now in real time. Let's be honest, Amen Thompson shouldn't be a mystery anymore. He was the number 4 overall pick in the draft. He's built like a linebacker with a point guard's brain. He's defending like an all-NBA vet, and he's improving faster than almost anyone in his class. So why isn't the world watching? Because Amen doesn't play the media game. He's not chasing clicks. He's not dropping mixtapes. He's not doing podcast tours or showing up courtside at high-profile games in flashy fits for the tunnel drip shots. And in today's NBA, that makes you invisible. We live in a league where image often drives narrative, where a viral dunk gets more attention than a week of elite defense, and a single scoring outburst generates more hype than months of meaningful progress. Amen's style? It's not built for quick clips. It's built for real impact. And that's something most people don't notice until it's too late. But don't get it twisted, NBA scouts know, coaches know, players definitely know. Steph Curry's quote wasn't some throwaway compliment. It was a warning. He's going to be a problem. That's what Steph said after barely escaping a playoff series with Amen shadowing him like a heat-seeking missile. What Steph didn't say, but what every veteran in the league is starting to realize, is that Amen isn't just a good young defender. He's a system breaker, a guy who can blow up your game plan on both ends without even scoring. Think about it. When a rookie shows defensive IQ, elite recovery speed, elite instincts, and the courage to take on the league's best consistently, that's not just good for his age. That's different. But fans, they miss it. Because fans are trained to look at points per game. They glance at shooting splits and scroll on. And the algorithms? They push whatever's trending, not necessarily what's evolving. So Amen gets lumped in with the can't shoot equals limited upside crowd, but that narrative has expired. We said the same thing about Giannis. We said the same thing about Shai. Even Nash was criticized for being too passive in his early years. We've seen this story before, and every single time it ends the same way. The quiet one turns into the storm. The thing with Amen is he doesn't need to tell you he's coming, he'll just show you. The Houston Rockets aren't on national television every week. They're not a top 3 seed. They're not dominating the headlines they're developing. They've got a crowded backcourt, a mix of veterans and youth, and an organization trying to balance winning now with building for later. That means players like Amen don't get 38 minutes and 20 shots a game even if they deserve it. He's had to earn every single touch. He's had to build chemistry with teammates who are still learning their own roles. And he's had to do it all without complaining once. Compare that to other rising stars who are handed the keys from day one, the ones who get developmental freedom to take 18 shots a night no matter the result. Amen doesn't get that leash. But he's still producing, still improving, still winning games with defense, effort, and smart decision-making. And that's what makes this so scary. Because if Amen Thompson is already this impactful with limited usage, limited shots, and limited public attention, what happens when the Rockets finally hand him the keys? What happens when he becomes the face of the franchise? What happens when he's not just a piece, but the piece? Here's the answer. The same thing that happened with Giannis, Nash, and Shai. The leap won't just be noticeable. It'll be impossible to ignore. Let's ask the question that's been hanging in the air since the start of this video. Can Amen Thompson, a second-year guard averaging 14 points per game and shooting under 30% from three, really be an MVP one day? At first glance, it feels like a reach. The numbers don't scream superstar, the highlights don't flood Twitter, he's not even the #1 option on his own team. But if you study the league's history, really study it, you'll notice something. MVPs rarely look like MVPs this early. Giannis averaged 12.7 points per game in year 2, less than Amen. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander averaged 10.8 points in his second season off the bench, mind you. Steve Nash didn't even start consistently until year 4. So no, MVPs aren't born in year 2. They're built in the shadows while no one's watching. What separates eventual MVPs from the rest isn't early hype, it's trajectory. It's the rate of growth. The flashes of brilliance. The hunger to keep leveling up, even when no one's asking them to. Amen checks every single box. Trajectory, his offensive game is evolving fast. In just one season, he's nearly doubled his three-point percentage, jumping from 13.8% to 27.5%. That kind of leap doesn't happen without serious work. His mid-range jumper, it went from unreliable to automatic, climbing nearly 20 percentage points in a single year. Playmaking-wise, he's growing too. After the All-Star break, his assists jumped from 3.4 to 5.1 per game, a clear sign that the game is slowing down for him. And defensively, he's already elite. Coaches trust him to take on the opposing team's best guard night after night, and more often than not, he wins those matchups. Impact? He's not a stat chaser, he's a system amplifier. He doesn't need the ball to be useful, he doesn't need the spotlight to shine, and that makes him dangerous. Because the moment he does get more touches, more usage, and more responsibility, he's already shown he can handle it. Positional rarity? How many 6'7" point guards with elite defensive instincts, transition explosiveness, court vision, and humility do you see come through the league every decade? Seriously, who's his true comp? He's too big to be a traditional guard. Too fluid to be a wing. Too smart to be a project. And too tough to be just another raw athlete. Even from a historical lens, Amen Thompson is unique. Let's talk context. Almost every MVP of the past 15 years, Giannis, Jokic, Curry, Harden, Russ, Shai, had a moment in their third or fourth season when they were handed the keys. When the system finally said, "You're the guy." And that's when the leap happened. So what happens when the Rockets maybe next season, maybe the one after, finally hand Amen the keys? What happens when Van Vliet steps aside? When Amen is running 70% of pick and rolls, calling the offense, taking 15 shots a night, and dictating tempo like a maestro? The leap won't just be likely, it'll be inevitable. Here's the truth nobody wants to admit. Amen Thompson is already better than most guards drafted in the past 5 years. They just don't realize it yet because he doesn't play loud. But when you look at everything he brings to the table on both ends, and then add in the fact that he's improving faster than almost any player in his class, you're not looking at a project. You're looking at a future MVP, quietly, methodically, and confidently building the foundation. 3 paths, 3 MVPs, and 1 quietly rising star walking every single one all at once. The athletic fire of Giannis, the patient vision of Steve Nash, and the surgical scoring and poise of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander all converging in a single player who just turned 21. Amen Thompson is not a maybe. He's a when. Because what we're witnessing isn't some overhyped flash in the pan. It's not a fluke rookie year or empty stats on a rebuilding team. This is a blueprint, and it's happening in real time. He's already an elite defender. He's already learning how to control tempo. He's already improving his shot faster than anyone expected. And most importantly, he wants it badly. You can feel it in the way he plays, in the way he dives for loose balls, even when the game's out of reach, in the way he studies film like a seasoned vet, and in the way he defers not because he's passive, but because he understands the long game. Because that's the kind of player who lasts. The kind that doesn't just dominate seasons, he defines eras. And the scariest part? He's doing all of this without even being unleashed yet. He's not getting 35 minutes a night. He's not running every offensive set. He's not taking 20 shots a game. He's still fitting in, still learning the system, still finding his voice. And yet, he's already changing games. Now imagine what happens when he is the system, when the team is built around him, when the leash is off and the league finally realizes what it's been sleeping on. By then, the he can't shoot memes will be gone, the doubts will be gone, and the only thing left will be highlight reels, wins, and trophies. So if you're still sleeping on Amen Thompson, that's fine. Most people were sleeping on Giannis. They laughed at Nash. They called Shai overpaid before he even touched an all-star court. But history repeats itself, and this time, it's wearing a Rockets jersey with a calm expression that hides a storm underneath. Amen Thompson doesn't need you to believe. He's gonna show you anyway. And when that MVP moment arrives, when the stats, the leadership, and the impact all come together, don't say it came out of nowhere. Because the blueprint was right in front of us the entire time.